Hey, good afternoon, folks, citizens of Colonial Beach. I wanted to take a second, if we could, today and talk to Tom Onker. And just by the way, he's run for town council and can use your vote anytime, anyway, any day. Very qualified. But one of the things that Tom did before he retired was he was an attorney. And as you'll notice, if you take a look on the ballot when you get into the election polls on Tuesday, whether you're here or whether you're in other areas as far as the Commonwealth of Virginia goes, is you're going to see on page 2 of 2, or on the second page as far as the ballot goes, you're going to have some questions asked there. And they're basically constitutional questions. Now it's not written really in heavy duty legalese, but it's written in a way that maybe I think that probably having the knowledge of somebody like Tom, who has been a very successful attorney for years and years and years, not that you're old or anything, but has been around, understands this stuff. I gave Tom a call and I said, hey, is there something that we could do almost like a public service announcement and talk to the folks here in Colonial Beach, no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, just so that we'll have a good feeling for what we're answering as far as questions number 1 and number 2 go as far as the ballot goes. With that, Tom, boom, boom.
Boom, boom. And I've got a number of queries as I've hit doors on these amendments as well. There are 2 constitutional amendments that are on this year's ballot, and I'll take them in reverse order because the second one has gotten to be is very uncontroversial. The second amendment would create a tax exemption for the car owned by a veteran with 100% disability.
Yep.
And I think that should pass
Yep.
fairly swimmingly. The first constitutional amendment would take the General Assembly out of redistricting, invest the process in a redistricting commission, and this has taken on a bit of controversy. But what the amendment would do would basically say that this redistricting commission has the authority to set the boundaries of all legislative districts, subject to a vote by the General Assembly, but the vote would not be they could not amend
Right.
the
boundaries
the plan the commission came up with.
Yeah.
And in the event that the General Assembly turned down 1 or 2 plans by the redistricting commission, it would then be settled by the Supreme Court of Virginia.
Right.
What's interesting about this one is that in 2019, there were a number of Democrats and Republicans that were running in favor of this amendment. At the time, of course, nobody knew how the legislature was going to rattle out in the 2020 session. Democrats took over a majority in 2020. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because then a number of Democrats who had suggested they liked the amendment all of a sudden didn't like it. And go ahead.
Now let me okay, so let me grab this.
Right.
So the reason that somebody probably wouldn't like it is because it takes away the ability of the legislature itself, the people that we vote on as far as our representatives go.
Right.
They're not really controlling the boundaries at that point.
Right.
The commission would be controlling the boundaries.
Exactly.
So even by winning in 2020, the Democrat side, they don't want to support this now because it takes away their ability to control the boundaries. Okay,
and let's cut to the chase. Okay. This has been a part of American politics since Elbridge Gerry in the 19th century. Okay, I
don't know.
There's nothing new on this, and the idea that a political body is going to take away the single most political decision, or going to give away the single most political decision they make to an unelected body, is really kind of unusual. Mm-hmm. The problem that we've got with districts at this point? In 1980, you were kind of locked into jurisdictional boundaries, counties, cities, mm-hmm. precincts, to make it work.
That makes sense.
Okay, but what's happened in the interim is that computers have gotten fully involved in this process in a frightening manner, because literally a legislator in 2010 could pull a boundary a couple of blocks, and the entire map from Accomack to Lee County would adjust accordingly.
Okay.
So what started happening with the computers is that instead of the electorate picking their representatives. The representatives are picking their electorate.
Okay.
They're literally choosing their constituents. And the profound political effect of this has been that the political middle has disappeared.
Right.
What happens is you have a Republican next to a Democrat. The Democrat pitches all the Republicans into the Republican district.
You basically cherry pick your constituents.
Cherry pick your constituents
and guarantee yourself getting votes.
Exactly. And as a result, politics. This has been a large element in politics being as divisive as they are, because with this ability to pick your constituents, you really don't have to worry about that middle ground.
Right.
And so that's evaporated, and I believe that was a large part of the basis of the support of the amendment in the prior session, and in this session as well. So, but ideally, it will pass. The objection that the Democrats have raised at this point is that the default is the Supreme Court of Virginia, which at this point is dominated because the legislature for many years has been Republican by Republican appointed justices.
Probably has more Republicans. So.
Well, but I view that as kind of short-sighted.
Okay.
Simply because, unlike the federal bench, Supreme Court justices of Virginia are appointed for 12-year terms. So in the next decade, assuming that the Democrats...
It'll shift back the other way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking their opposition...
What goes up must come down.
Exactly. It's a little short-sighted, but I think the wisest decision that good people of Virginia can make is to support this amendment.
Okay. That sounds great. I just, when I was looking at it, it just looked to me, and I didn't really quite understand it and stuff, and that's why I talked to Tom the other day, and he called me this morning, actually, and we decided to do this because I think it's a good idea. The other thing is I think probably trending-wise, as far as Colonial Beach goes in a Google browser today,
right.
Now that you've brought up Dandridge Jerry?
Elbridge Jerry.
Elbridge Jerry. So tell us a little bit about Elbridge Jerry, and then we can let these great people go.
Well, you've heard the term gerrymandering.
Oh, yeah.
That's named for Elbridge Jerry.
Elbridge Jerry.
Okay, who created a district in Massachusetts that looked like a salamander or gerrymander or salamander, just one of these. And the problem with the legislative districts we had with computers is you get basically ink spots. You get absolutely incoherent geography. It has nothing to do with county or city or town lines.
It looks more like a temperature gradient.
Or depending. But Elbridge Jerry was governor of Massachusetts, and that's, again, gerrymandering is named for him.
Okay.
He also happens to be one of the 3 representatives at the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia who voted against the Constitution.
I heard he was a roommate to Button Gwinnett.
Right, that too. And also, but in voting against the Constitution, he joined Virginians Edmund Randolph and George Mason. So.
Okay. Well, with that, folks, we've tried to do a little public service announcement here and tell you what's going on as far as the questions go with the ballots. A couple of things that I just want to say. It's so important to get out there and vote. Exercise your constitutional right to actually get out there and vote. Vote for Tom. And as you guys know, I'm always vote for Mike Fitzpatrick. And with that, Tom, do you have anything else that you want to put out there? Because with that, fine citizens of Colonial Beach, I think that we're pretty much done, sir.
I'm looking forward to Election Day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening.